Hello and welcome back to another crafting video. Today I thought I'd do something a little different and show you how I created this cute sign for my craft room using my Cricut Explore 3. Now you will notice my first attempt was not the best. My SVG file was slightly crooked and my frame was upside down. And I'm new to this. This is something that's completely new to me. I'm just jumping into it, so I'm still trying to get a feel of doing things in the correct order, not looking like I'm struggling when weeding. Although, to be honest, weeding is probably my favorite part of vinyling. But again, like I said, I did pick up two of these stands or these frames from the dollar store. The font that I used, I won't be able to list because it is an SVG that I purchased from Design Bundles. So I'll link that font, I'll link that down in the description box below. So that way, if you're interested in this particular saying, you can click on the link and purchase it from Design Bundles. So like I said, I am new to this, so weeding my vinyl, although I really like it, it's probably my favorite thing to do, I'm still a little awkward with it. But to help me weed out my images, I actually cut my vinyl down. And so the vinyl that I'm using right now is actually the Shimmer Smart Vinyl from Cricut. I'll link that down below. I'll list that down below as well. And then I also purchased kind of a sampler pack of vinyl. This is just regular vinyl from Cricut because I wasn't sure what colors I wanted, and this kind of gave me a variety just to get started until I get my footing and know what I like and what I don't like. And again, regular vinyl, you use a mat when cutting your images or your fonts, and then smart vinyl, you actually don't need a mat because it has a more stable backing. So that way, again, you don't need a mat. You just load the smart vinyl into the machine and it'll do the cutting. So here I'm going to go ahead and weed the scissors. Now the SVG file has everything together. I actually separated the scissors from the saying because I wanted it to be in a different color. So that's probably as advanced as I've gotten so far, but I was proud of myself for at least figuring that part out. There are a bunch of tutorials you can watch from other people who have mastered this, but I just kind of jumped in there, and this is my first project. And so here are my purple scissors. I thought they were super cute. And now I'm going to go ahead and start with my saying. So I actually started to weed out the centers of my letters. I thought that it would be easier for me to weed out the centers first before I weed out the rest of the words. I think at this point, from what I've watched, it could go either way. You can start with, pulling the background off, or you can, start with weeding out the centers of your letters. I don't think there is a wrong or right way. It's just however you feel comfortable. And maybe some projects you do one way and other projects you do different. But so I'm going to sit here and just take my time trying to be very careful. So I'm weeding, out the correct areas of my font. And so I will just speed this along. So one thing I wanted to mention also is when you're lifting or weeding your vinyl, when the machine cuts, it kind of leaves a little impression behind the vinyl of where it actually cut the wood. So if your vinyl doesn't weed out properly, or there's a few times in there where it lifted, or I had to put the letters back down. Again, when the vinyl gets cut, it leaves an impression. So you can easily line up whether it's your letters or your image, so that way it's back in the same position and everything lines up perfectly. I just wanted to mention that because I have watched other videos that were super helpful, great tutorial, but they never mentioned that there is kind of a cut line, so to speak. I mean, it's hard to explain it. You'll see it when your vinyl gets weeded and cut out, if it lifts, where you can actually place it back in the correct spot, and that way everything lines up perfectly. Hopefully that made sense. That was a lot. Sorry about that. But now I'm just making sure that everything lines up, because there were a few spots, like some of the dots were a little bit difficult to weed out, so I'm just making sure they line up straight again, just by following those cut marks. And then we will go ahead and continue with the rest of the project. So now that I've weeded everything out and everything looks great, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my frame. So again, this frame is from the dollar store, or I should say $1.25 store, since nothing's $1 anymore. And I want to take care of some of the wood hairs, just from when it was assembled and cut. And I'm going to do that by using a nail file, and I'm going to gently sand down those the wooden hairs to make sure I get those off there before I apply my vinyl. After I've cleaned up all the areas, I'm actually going to bring in some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel to make sure everything has been wiped down. Using rubbing alcohol is nice because it evaporates quickly, and it will remove any of your fingerprints, any oils or dust. Before I do, I'm going to use my mini vacuum to vacuum up all of the wooden pieces. And then again, bring in that rubbing alcohol, because by doing so, you are giving the vinyl the best success for adhering to your surface. And so I will wipe this down and make sure everything is clean. So now that that is looking great and ready to go, I'm going to make sure I have it in the correct position and not make my mistake like I did last time. And I'm going to bring in some transfer tape. This transfer tape I purchased off of Amazon, and it works great. Again, I'm too new to know any different, but this was recommended by a fellow crafter, Beth Adilly. If you have not seen her channel, I would definitely head over there, because she is the master of all things Cricut. So anyways, I'm just going to lay my transfer tape down. I do like that this one has grid lines on it, so that's going to help me kind of line everything up. Again, because I'm new, I am still trying to master that. Eyeballing it is very difficult for me, but I know it's only going to get better with practice. So I'm just going to continue to, practice makes perfect, and create other projects. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish the transfer tape to my vinyl. I'm going to burnish the back, and I'm also going to burnish the front, and I feel like that's going to give me the best success to be able to have my vinyl transfer over onto that transfer tape, so then that way I can bring it to my project. Because there are some small areas of the vinyl, I do want to be very careful when rubbing my scraper tool over the cross or on top of the vinyl, because I noticed that if you press too hard or too quickly, those small pieces will tend to shift and move. So just be careful when rubbing on top of those areas. And then you kind of want to slowly remove your the backer from your vinyls. This one really kind of gave me a run for my money. He was being very stubborn, so I, just like I said, go nice and slow, and any stubborn areas you just kind of want to rub over it. I used my finger, I brought in my scraper tool, and just take your time. That's what I did, is took my time to make sure everything was sticking and didn't shift or move when removing the backer from the vinyl. So I'm going to bring in my frame, and I'm actually going to lay a piece of the frame on top of my cloth. Because it has that stand in the back and it's not really centered, it was a little wobbly, so this kind of gave me some stability, so that way I can make sure that my vinyl was straight before I placed it onto my project. I did notice that once you lay the vinyl down onto your project, it's pretty much there. Like there's really no wiggle room for me. So that is something else that I have to try to master, lining everything up and making sure it looks straight before I place it down. Is something that I definitely am going to need to practice on, but I think for it being my first project, it's pretty straight. I mean, it's not perfect, but again, it is a handmade craft, so I have to give myself grace. I didn't use a machine to do this. Well, kind of. I used the machine to cut it out, but to assemble everything, it's handmade. So, the dots I really didn't push down, so I did have a little bit of wiggle room. Using my weeding tool, I was able to push them a little bit. You do have to be very careful by doing that. I'm not gonna lie, I did sweat a little bit because I didn't want to scratch my surface, but in all, everything worked out, and now I'm just kind of using my cloth to really press the vinyl into the background. And now I'm actually going to use the Cricut transfer tape for the smart vinyl. I did notice that the smart vinyl needs the Cricut transfer tape in order for this to work properly. I think it's because it's a lot stronger. That transfer tape is a lot stronger. And I just felt like it worked a lot better than using the other transfer tape. Only when I'm using the smart vinyl, though. If I'm using the other vinyl, then it works just fine, the other transfer tape. But for smart vinyl, I am sticking to using my Cricut transfer tape. One thing I do want to mention too is the Cricut transfer tape for the smart vinyl is super sticky and super strong. So when I lay my scissors down, you will notice when I burnish the scissors in place, it does kind of go over those white dots. And because this vinyl is super sticky, this transfer tape is super sticky, I have to be very careful when lifting the transfer tape that is on top of those white dots. My first project, they actually pulled right up. That was a learning experience for me. Again, just being very careful, learning things along the way. I do apologize in advance if some of the terminology or lingo was incorrect. Again, this is a learning experience for me, and I just wanted to share my crafting journey with you guys. Hopefully, as I continue to vinyl and use my Cricut, I will get more comfortable and explain my process a lot better. So anyways, thank you so much for stopping by and sticking with me. I know this video was a little rough, but it was fun, and it was fun creating this small little project. So thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.